Turning your phone into a digital health device. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us is the CEO of Sparrow BioAcoustics, based in Newfoundland, Mark Opauszky. Hi, Mark.
Good morning, Fred.
Well, you've developed something called the Stetophone. Give us the overview of what it is.
Well, the basic thought here is that doctors can't be with you all the time to observe what's going on with your body. And your participation makes a difference. So we're giving people a way to collect precise medical data about their hearts and use that information with their doctors to make better decisions.
So is this an app, or tell us what it consists of?
Absolutely. In this case, what we're doing is we're offering the public an application that they download on the smartphones. You download the app, you fire it up, and quite simply, you hold the phone to your chest and it listens to your heart and to your lungs. You can make recordings. Those recordings are digitized. They're enhanced in a number of medically important ways. And then you can collaborate or share those recordings with medical professionals. The reason this is important is because things like cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 killer worldwide and in the United States, often have very nuanced symptoms, particularly in the early stages. They come and go. They're not always easily observable in those few hours you might be in front of your doctor. So if you're concerned about your heart health, or if you're feeling symptomatic, lightheaded, faint, chest flutters, all of these sorts of things, it's beneficial to record your heart in that moment and have a stock of those recordings that then you can later share with your doctor to say, look, I'm bringing data to the table and I have a concern, I'm listening to my body, and I want to participate in my own healthcare.
Do you see this as a potential tool in using telemedicine visits?
We've certainly had a lot of telemedicine use cases. We've been piloting this in Ukraine to help out with the efforts there. And primarily those have been telemedicine situations where cardiac patients or people who had a history of cardiac concerns were recording themselves when they couldn't necessarily get to their doctors and securely sending that information to cardiologists for review. It's been quite successful. We think that beyond telemedicine, though, these are the type of things where you want to have it with you every day, all the time. You want to have it there when you're not feeling right. You want to have it there and be hyper convenient. Think of it as sort of like a thermometer, a home thermometer, but for your heart.
Now, there's an interesting story behind this, I guess a personal story as well. Give us more info on how this all came about.
Well, I've been doing technology companies, particularly ones that involved some sort of advanced digital processing and in regulated industries for a number of years. And 5 years ago, almost exactly to the day, as a matter of fact, I became sick. I thought I had the flu, but it was not the flu. I wound up in a coma for a better part of a month in a New York ICU with multiple organ failure and my heart hanging on by a thread. So, I owe the doctors and nurses a lot, but I don't think anyone at the time was necessarily expecting me to survive, other than my wife, who didn't leave my bedside for a month and while I was on life support, and she learned everything and made them pay attention to every detail. That saved my life at least once. So this is one of the reasons why I formed the view that advocacy and information when the chips are really down matters. At the end of the day, the condition left me with most of my organs at least partially destroyed, and they also told me that I was going to lose my arms and legs when I finally came out of a coma. It was sort of a tough thing to try to figure out how to recover from. Like, where do you start? But listen, it actually worked out really well for me. Again, I made almost a complete recovery in terms of my, kidneys and liver, and even my heart bounced back, though it was under quite a bit of strain. And while I did end up losing a leg out of it, my life is more or less back to normal. So the point at the end of the day is, I'd never been sick before. I was completely taken aback by this sudden, very rare, very bizarre illness that came out of nowhere. I certainly didn't do anything to bring it on myself, and yet these things happened. And you start to realize just how much you are a participant in your own recovery, in your own health, how much proactivity matters. And so one of the things I did when I got out was I said, look, I think the next thing that I do, the next thing that I dedicate my life to professionally needs to help a lot of people. How do we help millions of people, but in a whole different way? We want to do something at scale. We want to make it easy. We want to make it so they wouldn't have to charge anything new or stick anything to their body. We wanted to use the equipment that was already in the field, already in their pockets. We want to do something with proactive healthcare that fit into people's lives, because at least according to the CDC, there are almost 100 million people with either cardiac or pulmonary conditions in the United States alone. And up to 40% of them are undiagnosed, underdiagnosed, or undertreated. This is a widespread public health issue, and we wanted to do something about that. So yeah, I was inspired, as were some of the other founders in the company who've all had stories with either caring for people with cardiac conditions or direct experience. It was mission oriented from day one, and it's been a hell of a thing to work on.
Well, we're certainly glad that you've recovered, and that's a heck of a story. So tell us what the advantages are that you feel you have over other kinds of devices. I mean, we all have watches these days
Sure.
that are monitoring our hearts, and there are other things out there too.
Well, that's actually a super important question. We wanted it to be medically powerful. And so we became extremely interested in bioacoustics, the sound that your body gives off, in particular, let's say your heart and your lungs. But there are other body sounds we can look at in the future. But just focusing on cardiac for a second, the sound that your body gives off, the sound your heart gives off, is diagnostically extremely rich. It tells us all kinds of things about the condition of your heart muscle mechanically. It tells us a lot of things about the rhythm with how your heart is actually beating. The sounds change depending on how effectively blood is flowing through the heart. The sounds change based on the condition of your heart valves, which is a very big deal, with degenerative heart disease peaking almost 4 to 5%, depending on the age group that you're in. So there are a lot of mechanical things that sound can detect. And then, of course, we can talk about lungs and breathing patterns and COPD and all kinds of things like that. Probably upwards of 100 diseases that we could start to detect and work with very closely. So we needed to have a very deep data set. We wanted to digitize this data set in a meaningful way at scale, which hadn't really been done before. And using phones, which were already in people's hands, a device they already had a relationship with, and not asking them to attach another device or to have to wear something or to have to charge something else, was a big part of the story. So in summary, it's medical depth of data that we're going after, which I think has a huge future to helping a lot of people, and the ultra convenience of the best medical device is the one that you always have with you. And between those two ideas, we think we have a fit for the public.
So tell us about availability, the platforms that you work on, and what pricing will be.
We intend to be launching in the App Store on Valentine's Day, on the 14th of February. It'll be available on Apple iOS for most phone models at this point. We're going to be working on the other phones coming up shortly. It is a Class 2 FDA cleared medical device, and which is an extremely rigorous process, both scientifically and from a data security and functionality perspective. So as you can appreciate, it takes a lot of effort to get all of these various clearances to be allowed to be used on these various phones. So we are starting with Apple products. We are starting on the 14th of February. Pricing at this point, we're experimenting with different things. There'll be a free trial. There'll be what we intend to be a small monthly fee on an ongoing basis. And we're going to tune it in as we learn how people use it, as we can improve the value, and so we can get closer to our customers' lives and really understand the best way that we can fit.
And I know you've had to deal with the various privacy issues as well. being a medical device, right?
That's correct. Naturally, we had to both talk to the FDA about that from a privacy standpoint, and we also need to be HIPAA compliant. We are making these signals not only recordable, but shareable with your doctor, which means we need secure sending capability and secure reviewing capability. And we also have to be very specific with how we deal with patient data, what data we keep, what data the patient owns, all those sorts of things. We had to develop some very strong policies around that. We believe that people have a right to have their own medical data. We just want to be a helpful source to collect it, give it medical quality, and make it shareable so that you can collaborate with your medical team.
And might people use this in conjunction with, say, the ECG technology that's available at home as well?
Absolutely.
I guess it's providing a different set of information or data.
That's completely correct. If you take a look at something like your Apple Watch or other similar devices, those are two lead ECGs. They can tell you certain things about the electrophysiology of your heart. They don't help you much with things like lungs and other things like that, but they're certainly a very legitimate contribution to creating an overall picture, as are blood pressure detectors and measurers and pulse ox detectors. So we think we fit nicely in with that. The most important thing is that when you're feeling concerned, or if you feel faint or symptomatic or unusually dizzy, you have a very quick way to capture that with some deep medical information that you can have with you. You can then augment it with other things as you go. So we think it's an important addition, but again, convenience, portability, and access matters.
Does the app alert the user to anything that they should be worried about?
We're not currently doing that. That is something that we're looking very hard into. We're making significant investments in finding the right way to do that is medically sound and responsible. It certainly is something that we intend to bring out in the future. And what can I say? You'll have to check back with us on that one.
For more information, where can people go?
You can certainly go to our website. Just type in Stethophone. You can also search for Sparrow BioAcoustics, and you can get more information there. Like I said, we'll be in the App Store shortly, and we're looking forward to a successful early launch and some strong early users that we can really start to focus on and really help.
Once again, it is called the Stethophone, Stethophone. Mark Opauszky, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.